Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1324 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Monday evening into Tuesday, and this is part two of a two-part episode. So I want to stress that right now at the top of this podcast. If you missed part one, I encourage you to go back and listen to part one with myself and Robby Kalland on the Eastern Conference over-unders. That dropped on Monday. This is dropping basically into Tuesday morning, so please go back and check that out if you missed it. If nothing else, that's a fun conversation. Robby and I talking about the Eastern Conference. We'll have some Hawks talk at the end of part two because the Hawks are the last team on the agenda in the over-under segment. So please stay tuned. Please subscribe to the podcast. And after the intro, we'll be back with more with myself and Robby Kalland.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, I am joined now once again for part two of the Eastern Conference Over-Under podcast with my friend Robby Kalland. If you missed it, by the way, again, part one is available for your listening pleasure, but we're going to dive right in here, Robby, with the Detroit Pistons, the team that I should have been a fan of as a kid. I'm a Michigan fan. My dad was a Pistons fan, and I missed that boat. I think I probably got lucky on some level with that one, especially now, but they won a title, so maybe not. The Pistons, 29 wins is the over-under. They won 23 last year. They added two high-profile rookies, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren. They bring in some vets, Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks. They did lose Jeremy Grant, but I think the big thing is, like, there's excitement on the Pistons because of Cade for obvious reasons and the young core, but are they 6 wins better on the court this year? Maybe not.
Nope. Especially because, again, there's plenty of incentive to be bad. Like, Detroit could embrace the tank again. Like, I don't think they are going to be the worst team in the East. We discussed Indiana at the end here. I think they should be. But look, like, Detroit's still a very young team. They got younger. They are going to give their guys a chance to be young and make mistakes. Like, sure, there's a chance it all just coalesces and they're a 30-win team, but I see a whole lot more mid-20s outcomes as possibilities. I like Cade. I hope he continues to take a step forward because he was really good the second half of the season once he got through that shooting slump that he dealt with. To open the year, he was really, really good. I love Jaden Ivey. Just full on got that dog in him guy. Like,
I know you love him. I know you do.
I love Jaden Ivey. High up on the board. Him and Maturin way high on the Kalland big board last year. I just, again, it's the same thing we talked about with a couple of the teams. Like, the talent gap between Detroit and the rest of the East and like the top 9 in the West is just pretty substantial, in my opinion. It's going to come down to, like, are they going to be one of those teams that just steals wins because you sleepwalk into Detroit and, like, maybe you just don't walk into Little Caesars Arena and walk out with a dub? Like,
best food in the NBA.
Maybe you get hot and ready. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't see a lot of outcomes where they go over, so I'm going to lean under.
Hot and ready.
I know if you, hey, I'm just saying, anytime you sleepwalk through Detroit, you might get hot and ready.
You do not simply walk in to Little Caesars Arena and get a victory.
You don't walk in and walk out, not like a $5 pizza.
No, I mean, okay. So here's the thing. Everything that we've said so far about these bad teams, I definitely lean under. I want to be clear about that. 29. They have the highest win total of all the bad teams. If that makes sense. Like, the teams that we already know are probably going to be bad. And I get it. It's because they have Cade, number one, and it's because they are a little bit more flashy than the rest of these teams with what they brought in with Ivy and Duren. But I like Ivy too. He's not going to be good as a rookie, almost certainly.
No.
Duren is going to be okay, but, like, it's going to be more Nerlens Noel. They have Marvin Bagley, which I'm going to be nice about this, but he does not help you win.
Sure.
I think I definitely would pick the under. The only thing that would stop me from making it a best bet is that I am all in on Cade. and I think there is a chance Cade
He's just
makes
great.
a real leap and is like a star already in year 2. That's like, if that happens, then they can go over.
Sure.
But other than that, that's the only path that I
But
can see for them
even
winning 30
that, like,
games.
you just wonder about the sport. Like,
Well, that's the thing. So a good example.
Sadiq Bey is
He's a good
a
player.
guy. Like,
He's a good
he can
player, but
shoot.
like
You know, he's nice.
a
Like,
good example. Like they have better talent than this. So don't get me twisted. But like we've seen Shea Gilgeous-Alexander play at a star level and not have OKC win enough anyway.
Mhm.
And they've shut him down a few times, but honestly, it wouldn't have mattered. They wouldn't have won 30 games no matter what.
right.
So I can see Cade being as good as Shea has been
Mhm.
this year and them still being under. So
Mhm.
like that's why I have to take the under. And by the way, they should try to lose
Right. They should have the
by
incentive.
playing their young guys. I think Ivy's he's a perfect example of a guy who they should give a ton of reps to, who's probably not going to help you win this year.
Let him shoot 38% this year.
Yeah, and that's part of the
But
deal.
you hope that he's like, you hope it's like Cade last year, where it's like by the end of the season he's found his rhythm and he's kind of figured out his spots on the NBA floor. But like Ivy's not like an elite shooter. He's a streaky guy, and there's going to be times where he looks great. But they should just like him and Cade should be the leading shot takers on this team without a question.
Yep.
And like let them cook. And sometimes they're, sometimes it's not going to be hot and ready. Sometimes it's going to be a little tough. But it's not tough. Not tough at all.
Shouts to Keith Pompey, legend. Okay, on that note, we like the under.
It's not tough.
We
The
like the under
Cavs.
on the Pistons. Yeah.
The
Okay.
Cavs.
Moving on to the Cavs. Interesting team. So I feel like I've probably been a little bit lower on the Cavs than the national media has been after the Mitchell trade. They won 44 a year ago. They did have a sort of an injury-plagued collapse last year to win 44. They probably should have won a little bit more than that. The number is 47.5 at BetOnline. With Donovan Mitchell on the team, they did lose, of course, Markkanen and Sexton, but obviously an upgrade. The 4 stars thing has been made fun of by me a few times. I don't think they actually have 4 starters. That's 4 stars. They have 4 good players. But what do you think? I actually don't know how you feel about the Cavs. So the floor is yours.
You know what? I'm in. Like I not like they're like gonna win the East, but
Coral Hive, stand up. Is that what you're saying?
They can. I like the over. Like they're just a good team. Obviously it's kind of health permitting here, but that's all of these. That's any time you are taking it over, you are banking on some health. But yeah, I mean, like I think the thing that they have now that they didn't have is an ability to have 2 guards that can put pressure on the rim constantly. In the way that they just like when they were playing towards the end of the year and it was just Garland, like with Rubio out and it was just Garland. They had just gotten Karis LeVert, who was struggling. Like their offense, they just didn't have a secondary initiator. And so when teams walled off Garland, there just wasn't anybody to do anything. They have that now. They get Rubio back. Like they're constantly going to have competent guard play for 48 minutes a night. And it's kind of the same thing. It's what we're talking about with Atlanta. We'll get there. But like you have good guard play for 48 minutes. Like that helps a lot, especially when you have the front court talent they have that you have to get them the basketball. Like Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are like good, but somebody has to get them the ball in their spots, right? Like you can't dump it into the post and say, go get us a bucket, Jarrett. Like he's a pick and roll guy. He's a great lob threat from the dunker spot. Like all of these things can work if you have the guard play to get them the ball. And I think they have that now. I'm a believer in the defense. Like when you have those 2 big men, like you just have a lot of options defensively. I'm in. Like I think this is a 50-ish win team.
Yeah. No, I think there are some questions that have to be answered. Like, everyone does the 3 as a question. That's the most obvious one between Okoro, who I still kind of buy, but offensively it's been a mess. They have Dean Wade and whoever else. But their top 4 is really good, and I think defensively it'll be a good test to see how much bad guard play hurts, because they have really good front court defense and really bad backcourt defense, and we'll see. If they play a Okoro, they should be really good defensively. If they go a little bit more offense, we'll see. If it's LeVert, we'll see. But no, I think they're going to be good. Last year, I still don't know if they were really a mid-40s win team, true talent-wise, but you had Mitchell, who I'm not the biggest Mitchell guy, but like obviously he's really good.
Well, also, and like he's gonna like, it's the same thing with Gobert in Minnesota. It's like those are guys that win you regular season games.
Yeah, he's gonna win. I mean, Garland's really good, and Allen's really good, and Mobley might take a leap. And I do totally get it on Cleveland. This is one that's a stay away for me. I could see them winning 46 games and not be surprised by it, or 49 games or whatever. Like, I don't think there's any. The big thing Mitchell does for them is like it raises their floor a ton, because last year we saw what happened. Like when they didn't have Garland, they could not score. They could not do anything on offense.
No.
And now they become a very natural stagger team, and Mitchell is a good regular season player, like you said. So, I wouldn't want to have the under either, but I think I'm a little bit less excited about the over. So it's a pass for me, but they're good. I mean, I think that spoiler alert, I think I'd rather have the Hawks this year, which is maybe controversial, but not by a ton. So we'll see. We'll come back to that. I saw your face. We'll come back to that later on. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. If you haven't tried the Built Bar Puffs yet, you're depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. It's delicious. Built has done it again. And let me introduce you to that new favorite. It's cookie dough chunk puffs. They have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, 100% real chocolate on the outside, which is a Built Bar staple. All of the joys of eating cookie dough are in this bar without the hassle of actually having to make it. Plus, it's healthy for you as well. The cookie dough chunk puffs have 160 calories and a whopping 15 grams of protein. What's also great about Built is that all of the bars have collagen protein, which help your body to absorb more efficiently, and they provide a ton of health benefits across the board. It's something that tastes good, and it's also good for you. Go to Built.com right now to snag a box for yourself or your family. It'll be the perfect treat, whether for a snack for your workout, a late-night treat, or just grabbing a quick bite. Built is a perfect protein bar, and they taste better than a candy bar as well. Ditch the calories, ditch the fat and the sugar, and grab yourself a Built bar today. When you're doing that, go to Built.com, use our new promo code LOCKEDON15, 15% off on your order. One more time, that is promo code LOCKEDON15, 15% off at Built.com. All right, let's move on to the Chicago Bulls. One of my firmer plays on the board. I'll say that right now.
Okay.
The number is
What's
41.
This number down to?
It's down.
It was 44 and a half when I did it with Sam.
Yeah, it's 41 and a half now. And by the way, it got to 39 and a half in some spots I saw.
That's preposterous.
So this is almost the same as Miami, where like I would have come on here and waved my flag on the under at 44 and a half. I still like the under. I think I don't like Chicago. I never have bought it. I didn't buy it last year. I think every single thing went right for the Bulls for most of last season, and they won 46 games with a point differential of a 40-win team last year, with DeMar DeRozan having the best year of his career. 41-win point differential. Would I prefer it was 44 and a half? Yes, I would. But 41 and a half is, I think I had them for like 39. I really would. So talk me out of it. What do you think about the Bulls? You like them more than I do, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, look.
The Lonzo thing, by the way, matters a lot.
The Lonzo thing matters.
If he's out for the season, who knows? He's not supposed to be, but like,
yeah, I mean, like,
sound great.
That's what I'm not gonna sit here and tell you we're locking up the over. I don't know. Like, I get the DeMar thing, but I don't think he's gonna be like substantially worse. Like, I just think DeMar's like really good.
He
was good in San Antonio. Like, people didn't fucking watch. Oh, sorry, I can't cuss on this podcast.
It's okay. He did. What he did do was make 1 million buzzer beaters and stuff.
Yeah,
that's the kind of thing that like makes you win 46 when you have a 41 point differential, and that's what I'm not sure is going to repeat. Like, he's still going to be good. I was too low on him last year.
People are too low on DeMar right now.
I was too
tired of it. Hooper.
I'm kind of buying in more now than I was, but I still don't love the Bulls.
Pat
Williams, Vucevic was kind of bad last year.
Vooch was bad. Maybe we get like here's the issue with the Bulls, and this is the thing I was talking about with that kind of half-baked trade that I came up with, where they move Vooch and replace him with Miles Turner, which I think would be a great move for them. Vooch and DeMar want to occupy the same space in the post, because Vooch isn't like a deep block guy. They both want to be mid-post. And that's where Vooch has always had his best in Orlando. He can pop out to three. He can shoot threes. He wasn't real comfortable doing it as often as they had him do it. But the thing is, DeMar's better in the post than him. Because you definitely don't want DeMar out there spotting up. So you're going to go with DeMar there, and you're going to go with Vooch outside. And it's just not maximizing Vucevic's talents. And so I think there's a chance that they look to move Vucevic and get a Turner type. Okay, so you get a big who can block shots, who's a little more mobile, and can shoot some threes, because that's all you really want him doing. You don't need a guy who can go back to the basket because, again, you have DeMar DeRozan. I think Zach LaVine's good. I just think he's really good. I think there's just too much talent on this team. If Caruso can play more than 41 games like he did last year, that mitigates some of the Lonzo Ball issues and the absence a bit. He's obviously not quite as good, but on the defensive end, it mitigates some of that. Patrick Williams being back hopefully can be good again. He doesn't do some of the things that you want, but defensively he helps a good bit. Javonte Green is actually pretty good, and I'm interested to see what he can do in Lonzo's stead, because he's going to get a lot of minutes. I just think there's talent on this team. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to lock up the over. I don't even know if the over is the right play. I feel like they are the team that, and I get it, somebody's got to lose games. And it seems pretty clear that people have said Chicago's the team.
The Bulls.
I get it. I don't know. This thing is plummeted, and it's obviously rebounded some. I think that's people buying back. My guess would be it's everybody that took it at 44.5. As soon as it hit 39.5, that's a lot of people buying back.
Well, that's a huge middle for a win total. Middle. So yeah, I mean, if it was 44.5 still, I would be eagerly giving out the under. 41.5, they go with 42 games. It wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm lower on them what they were last year. Even before you project any regression in, this is a 500 team last year on paper, and they won more than that because DeMar was incredible. But without anything from Lonzo that you can kind of bank on, they bring in Andre Drummond. He probably helps them a little bit, but not a ton. Goran Dragic is kind of cooked at this stage. I think at age whatever he is, 36. I don't know. They could win over the number. I'm not going to tell you they can't, but I'm a little lower than you. In a rare disagreement. It's fine. I'll take it. All right. This is one where this is a weird one too. The Hornets.
Oh, baby.
36.5 is the current number for the Hornets at BetOnline. They won 43 games last year, and they basically had the exact same team except for they don't have Miles Bridges. And I have no interest in talking about that. Miles Bridges did a bad thing by all accounts, a very bad thing. And he's not going to be playing, nor should he be playing this year. On the court, they don't have a Willie or way to replace him. It's Gordon Hayward better stay healthy is kind of all I got for you on the Hornets. And that's why the number is where it is, because they could be bad, actually bad. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen because LaMelo's really good. And Steve Clifford generally has a good reputation for coaxing some defense out of his teams. By the way, he's the coach again of the Hornets.
He's back.
He's back. But talent-wise, if you take Bridges off his team, Melo, Terry Rozier is not my favorite. Never has been. He's been pretty good for them, but this is not a good roster. Sneakily.
Nope. This is an under for me.
I think so too. Even at 36.5, it seems pretty high.
This is a very solid under for me.
Very solid under. Wow.
Oh yeah. No, this was locked up.
Burying a Hawks play-in opponent.
This was locked up. Look, Miles Bridges was a fringe all-star.
He was very good.
You lost him for nothing.
And then it's not just that they have no one behind him, because they do have Kelly Oubre, they do have Hayward, they have some NBA players.
PJ Washington.
But they don't. He was their best role man for most of last season, despite playing the three sometimes. Mm-hmm. And
he was a good 3-point shooter.
The center spot's still a disaster. I know they have Mark Williams, but he was behind Nick Richards in training camp. He's a rookie no matter what.
They just keep drafting centers.
Yeah, they have
every year they draft a ACC center.
Their best front court player is Hayward, who's never healthy, and then behind him it's PJ Washington, who like is a pretty good player, but he's a combo big. He's like a 6'8" center. I mean, it's a strange team, and like I think LaMelo's really good, but he's not like to the point where he can just make you awesome by himself. So
well, the thing is, the thing that he does best is like elevate the guys around him, and he doesn't have great guys to elevate around him. Like,
no,
he was a big reason that Miles took the leap that Miles did. But they didn't replace, like, they did nothing because I think they were thinking they might be able to, I don't know. I look, like, this is not a good team. This is also a sell candidate. Like, this is a team that could just say, all right, Rozier, Hayward, we're going to sell, try to get to the bottom for 1 year and do a quick turnaround rebuild. Like, if you're talking about, like, when I'm looking for teams that can jump into this, you know, there's the quote from some anonymous GM to Woj or somebody who was like, we're going to see a race to the bottom like we've never seen. And I said, okay, there's 6 teams that I know are going to tank, or I feel pretty confident are.
yes.
You have the Pacers, you have the Jazz, you have the Rockets, you have the Thunder, you have probably the Magic, and you have
Pistons. Still?
No, I had maybe Pistons. I had somebody else. Anyway, so you have like 5-6 teams. Like, who else can even get in that fray? And I think Charlotte's towards the top of my list. Them and Detroit are the two that seem most likely to be able to do that. Again, like we talked about with Detroit, because they have young guys to go to. Charlotte doesn't have that, but they have guys you can trade to get picks, to get young guys, and that contenders might be looking for. Like, if you're looking for a scoring guard as a contender, like, Terry Rozier is available.
Well, and they don't have the depth either. Like, so, okay, compare them to Washington, they had like almost the same exact over-under or whatever, right? The Wizards have a lot of like competent, good players.
Yeah.
Like, depth is a strength of the Wizards. The Hornets don't have depth. Like,
No.
they have a really good player on LaMelo Ball who they're not going to trade, but like their second and third best players right now are Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward in some order. Gordon Hayward is not a reliable 70 game player anymore. He's just not.
No.
And I like Gordon Hayward, but he's always hurt. And then Rozier is kind of a one-way guy at this point. Like, he can score, like, to your point, he'd be valuable for some teams, but their depth is not strong. So if they wanted to go into the tank, it basically just takes shutting Melo down. It really would be that easy to be like, all right, no more you, Melo, and now we're really bad overnight. Whereas the Wizards like kind of need to do that with like 4 guys or 5 guys. Where the Hornets really, if you just took LaMelo off the Hornets, they would be in the same. They would be immediately in the group with the worst team in the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's. Their roster's not good. I don't even know if it takes. Again, it's you could shut LaMelo down, or you could just trade Rozier and Hayward for young guys. Like, that's all you have to do. Like, there are so many avenues for them to be really bad. And even if they try, I don't think they're going to be very good. Because again, like, the talent deficit against the rest of the league right now, like, I think they're a bottom 10 team right now without, trying to be. I think they're a bottom 10 team right now in the NBA. And then if they try to be bad, like, yeah, give me the under. This team wins, like, even with Steve Clifford, even with all that, like, under.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. So maybe we'll be proven wrong, and LaMelo has a great year and all that stuff.
I like LaMelo. That roster,
it's bad. I mean, it really is, and it's not the team's fault that they had no recourse to replace Miles Bridges when it happened and all that. Like, that's not the team. That's entirely on Miles Bridges. Yep. But the way it worked out for Charlotte is
they just got rocked.
It does open the door for them to maybe, if this was an innovative organization, they would already be like, all right, this is probably the perfect time to take this 1 year dip. That's not usually what the Hornets do. They're usually not kind of a team.
If Michael Jordan has been holding on to a Money in the Bank briefcase for a one-time favor from the league, it's time to get Wemby and LaMelo together. That's all I'm saying.
Wemby. It's time. Yeah, it'd be fun. Okay.
Not for Hawks fans. That would not be fun.
It would not be fun whatsoever. Okay, let's go to the Nets. The Nets are maybe the eternal stay away for everyone. I mean, no matter who it is that we talk to, it's people offline, our friends in the NBA, people doing NBA podcasts, everybody's like one giant shrug on the Nets, and that's the way it should be. The number's 50.5 right now at BetOnline.
Okay.
They have Ben Simmons back. They got Royce O'Neal.
Sure do.
They got TJ Warren, who might not play for a while still.
Also, Ben Simmons back is a unique way to say that.
Yeah. They did lose Bruce Brown, who was good for them. They lost Goran Dragic. They lost Andre Drummond, who was pretty good for them too. KD and Kyrie are healthy right now.
They're here.
The Nets could win 58 or they could win 29. Basically, depending. Now, I'll say this in more serious terms. If KD is healthy, there is a floor on the Nets that's pretty solid because
Like
KD is that good. Yeah, KD is that good. If KD is hurt, then all bets are off. That's the thing about the Nets is like he's not the most durable guy anymore at his age. Mm-hmm. The Simmons thing, it seems like he's going to play and be pretty good, but
he's turning the ball over a bunch.
Yeah, he looks weird, but he's out there. Him being out there is half the battle. Kyrie, I refuse to rely on Kyrie Irving to do anything. So
42 games over under. Let's play that game. 42 games over under for Kyrie.
I don't know the answer.
Slight
man, 50.5,
45.
I guess. It's very clearly no.
I think
do not bet this.
Along with Indiana, the firmest stay away is on the board.
Yeah, no. I wasn't kidding about that range. Like it does require a KD injury for him to be like bad. Yeah. But even if KD is healthy, if they get whatever they could get from Kyrie and Ben Simmons, they could still win. They could be a 43-win team very easily. I kind of like their roster now.
I do too. I thought
like Royce can play. Yeah, they still have Patty Mills, who's pretty good. Seth Curry's pretty good. I like Nick Claxton still.
Is he gonna do they like him?
Well, him and Simmons don't make sense together at all.
Like, do they like Nick Claxton? Because he was on the trade block.
They just
paid him. They paid him.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
It's really confusing.
But yeah, they have a good. If everybody plays, they have a really good top 8 or 9
really
that
nice
you like.
Roster.
So they could be the 1 seed. They could be the 1 seed. I do believe that.
I think if you like the over, that's the bet to make.
Yeah, I would certainly prefer some futures versus taking their over under win total.
Win total is not
maybe
if they go over, I think they smoke the over.
Yeah, that bet I mentioned earlier, they were plus 600 to have the most wins in the league. That's a better value for me than it would be to just take the over.
That, yes.
Because we saw not with Simmons, we saw 2 years ago when they were good on offense with Kyrie and basically anytime Kyrie and Kevin Durant have been playing together, their offense has been elite.
It's like a top 3 offense in the league as soon as those guys play together.
Yeah, so
it's terrifying.
Anyway, a giant pass from us, but that's the rest of the one down, just so we would say it out loud.
But yeah, if you were going to go over again, I think I would advocate best record in the league future as opposed to over 51.5.
I kind of dig that. Yeah. That's all I have on the Nets, unless you have more to add. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. If you're looking for a daily fantasy option this year, check out the award-winning app at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. I love it, and I know that you will too. It's so very easy to use. I can definitely attest to that because I've been playing on it for a while across sports, and I really enjoy the daily grind of going through the numbers and really having a lot of fun doing so. All you have to do is pick 2 to 5 players and weigh in on whether they have more or less than a certain number of points, rebounds, assists, or any other stat you can think of across sports. 1 up to 10 times your money on any entry. You're not competing against other people either. Instead, you're going against the available projections, and PrizePicks available numbers have basically across any sport. They have the NBA and college basketball, WNBA, NFL, college basketball, college football, MLB, NHL, PGA, soccer, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, cricket, and much more. And an entry can be done in just a minute or less. That's really easy and time breezy, let's just say. And PrizePicks also has safe and fast withdrawals. They're operating in more than 30 states at this point, as well as Canada. And download the PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com today to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can have a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON and sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Check it out now with PrizePicks. Okay, let's go to the Celtics. A bit of a challenging one now in a way that maybe they weren't a couple of months ago. The number is 53.5.
That's come down much.
It was 50. Yeah, it was 55.5. I think
6.5.
6.5.
6.5 is what we did for game
yeah,
total.
it's 53.5 now at BetOnline. They won 51 last year, but they had a 59 win point differential last season. And then they got better on paper in the offseason by adding Brogdon and Gallinari. Gallinari is already hurt for most of the season, if not all of the season.
Yep.
And Robert Williams is out for a while. Those two things have docked them in addition to the Udoka thing where he's not going to be coaching. At a bare minimum, that doesn't help you. I think that it's probably safe to assume that Joe Mazzulla, as a first-time head coach, will be a downgrade from Udoka. How big that is, we don't know, but it's not a plus. I mean, maybe I think that takes away a half a win or a win from you. I still think they're going to be really good, but there's just a lot of weirdness now without, I mean, almost more than anything else, the Robert Williams thing on the court. I mean,
sure.
That's a big one. If he's not, I mean, that's 8 to 12 weeks. And that's like a return to basketball conditioning stuff at that point.
Right.
Like we always say this on the show, like that doesn't mean he's back.
Right.
And they need him. And our guy, Al Horford, who we covered for many years, is not a guy you want to play 75 games at center anymore. Like they need to kind of pace him, and they can't pace him without Robert Williams. So it's weird.
Yeah, they're in the stay away realm for me. 53.5. I think I still lean over.
I think I would too, because they still have really good depth.
So good.
Yeah,
but the center rotation is definitely a question mark. But
like the starting center is Al, but like, what's their backup center situation? Is it Luke Cornett? Is it Grant Williams at 6'5"?
Yeah, it's probably a mix. You're probably playing small ball with Grant. I think it's matchup dependent.
And I think you don't, honestly, if you're Boston, you have title aspirations. Do you want Al playing back-to-backs? I think you probably don't for the most part, but he kind of has to.
Yeah, I think it's more going to be managing his minutes in those. I don't think he's going to be held out of stuff because he said like he's ready to go, and he worked this offseason to get like in shape to be able to play those. Kind of, I think, knowing the Robert Williams stuff was out there. So in theory, like I think it's going to be more managing him in those games and finding spots where you can get him, can go small. It's like if you're playing a team, so like, let's say you're playing Charlotte. Okay. Like let's say you got Charlotte on the back-to-back. That's not one where you got to go to Al a bunch, right? Like that's one where you can go small. That's one where you could, like I think it's going to be being smart about those. If you have Detroit on a back-to-back though, probably going to need Al because they just got size. They got beef stew. They got Duren. They got size.
And they also
it's kind of Williams figuring out the bad teams you can rest him against.
Yeah, and they rushed Williams back in the playoffs, and I get why you do it. It's a playoff series, and you're trying to win the title, but they need him. I mean, he changes their defense. I mean, they're still going to be pretty good defensively without him, but he makes them elite. He's the guy. I know Marcus Smart won the Defensive Player of the Year. That was a silly vote. I think he's really good, but he's not the guy that changes the defense. It's Robert Williams.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, I still think I lean over just because I guess I trust that they can put this stuff together. They've dealt with weird stuff in the past, like Jalen and Jason played with Kyrie. Like they've dealt with weird off-court stuff in the past, right? Like, I mean, like seriously, like if there's any experience that gets you ready for some weirdness and somebody maybe not being there that you're expecting to be there, it's playing with Kyrie.
They also have a full season Derek White this year, and he only came halfway through last year.
Yeah, their backup guard rotation is really good.
I mean, they were a 60+ win team once they got it together last year. And that's not a huge sample size, but yeah, I tend to lean over too. I would not bet it now.
No, it's scary.
The number's in a range where I think it's not crazy to bet it over, but there's just too many things between Williams and the coaching situation.
Yeah, I steered clear when it was 56.5, but like 50.
I would have too. I mean, even if Robert Williams was healthy, that's a really high number.
That's a big number.
It's a really high number for anybody. All right, we'll leave it there for now. It's time to talk about the Atlanta professional basketball team.
Your Atlanta Hawks.
The number at BetOnline is 46 wins. People have heard me talk about the Hawks a lot, Robbie. So I'm gonna start with you here. We don't have to go super duper deep on the Hawks. It's okay. This is a podcast where I talk about them all the time. But 46 is the number, so we'll view it through that lens at this point. And obviously, the underlying metrics, they were not quite as good as that last year, but they did sort of underachieve a little bit compared to their point differential. And they add a guy who's like a top 35, 40 player in the league, Dejounte Murray. So
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think this number is probably right. I think they are
over, baby.
I think you look. I
You know me,
see,
Captain Homer, baby.
that's
Over.
it. You're
Over
just
season.
excited to have somebody. You're just excited to have the optimistic view on this.
I am
for once.
nice.
I think the number's close to right. And that's not like 46 wins, 47 wins. Look, I have questions about the shooting, because you got rid of one of, if not your best shooters, in Kevin Herter. Didn't really replace that.
And Gallo.
And Gallo was a really good shooter. And I have concerns about Bogey. I'm worried that he's maybe a touch cooked.
Well, we're recording this on October 10th. Bogey has not practiced, and they have not really given any kind of update on him getting closer to practicing. We don't know, but they open in a week and a half, and he's not practiced yet. So
it's not ideal. So I have some concerns about the shooting around the Trey and DeJounte pairing. I see a lot of ways that can work. My only concern is they both are best at the exact same thing. They are both elite pick and roll players. They were both, I think they were top 5 in pick and roll usage as a ball handler last year. It's hard to do that on the same team. So, and I've been yelled at by Hawks fans about this. Some have evoked the CP3 Harden Rockets as the example of how you can take turns.
I have heard that, yes.
And with all due respect, I don't think these two are those two. I'm interested to see how it works. One of my concerns is that Nick McMillan has never been exactly a creative offensive mastermind over his career. And I think it's going to take a lot of creativity to maximize this, not to make it work, but to maximize what those two can do offensively. And I got to see it. I got to see it. I think there's a lot of things that can work. I mean, look, we've seen DeJounte and John Collins, DeJounte and Clint Capella can work really well in that pick and roll the same way that Trey and those two do. I love what they can do with those 4 in that realm. But it's going to take some creativity to work as secondary options, secondary actions, and do some things to maximize. Because you just DeJounte just can't be a spot up guy. You condense the floor too much for Trey if you have DeJounte spotting up, because he's not a threat. He's a 31% shooter. And you're taking away what Trey does best if you make him a spot up guy too often. There are going to be times where he has to. I have some of the stuff they've been working with Trey off the ball. I think I've been pleased with the stuff they've been doing, working him off screens, off the ball to get him free, either as a shooter or running in the secondary action. There's stuff that I like. I've got to see them do it over and over. I've got to see them really open up the playbook, because it's just never been a thing that Nate has done. Indiana was super vanilla, right?
Yeah.
This was always the complaint about Nate, is that he's a pretty vanilla offensive coach. Maybe they'll open it up. Maybe the staff can do this and make this work. I think it's an interesting canvas to work with, because again, these are 2 super skilled on ball players who don't have a ton of experience as off ball guys with a lot of success. Trey's never had to do that, because he's always been the best player on his team. And DeJounte was young and kind of wasn't on the ball, and then was given all of it last year and thrived, and that's when he took his leap. So I'm just interested to see how it works. I think defensively, I'm bullish on the Hawks. I think they're going to be I like the fact that they have 3 really good defenders at each level with that starting unit. Clint Capella at the rim, DeAndre Hunter on the wing, DeJounte Murray at the point of attack. I think you have your bases covered. I like a lot what they can do there. I think it will help mask Trey's deficiencies in that realm. John's a solid defender. I think they have the ability to do some good things on defense. I think they're going to be good on that end. Offensively, I understand the optimism. I just want to see it happen. I think they could do it. I'm not sitting here and trying to bury it and say that it's going to be bad. I wonder about the shooting around them and what they can do with units that don't have Trey and DeJounte both out there. I'm interested to see what they do with those, because it's just, if Bogey's not there, it's question marks. You know, like Justin Holiday is I know he's one of your guys,
he
but
can,
like
he can shoot, but he's not a shooter.
He's not a shooter. Like he can kind of camp in the corner a little bit, but
he has to be guarded. I mean, there are guys that have to be guarded. Hunter's got to be guarded.
Yeah.
Holiday's got to be guarded. John's got to be guarded out there, but they don't have the floor tilting shooters that they had before. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm with you on all that stuff. I think that, to your point about them working well early on, like it's one game. They ran some good stuff with those guys playing together. It was a lot of DeJounte with the ball in his hands. And then when Trey sat, you saw DeJounte San Antonio version with like a 35% usage rate. Like,
yeah.
And that's what should happen. I mean, that's
sure.
As soon as Trey sits, DeJounte run your show. That's the way it should work. But it's so early that, you know, I'm not saying it. I've never said it's like a perfect fit, because it's not. They have some stuff to work out, and the Nate factor is in play. I do think that there's kind of a floor on just how, like, they're going to be really good with anytime Trey plays. Like, anytime Trey plays offense, like, they're going to be good. I do think that they need to not go too far in taking the ball out of his hands, because Trey is best with the ball in his hands. He might be the best player in the league at doing that. He's definitely on the top 5. So yeah, there's some questions for sure, but, you know, to the point of the number, like, I think 46 is a reasonable number. I've seen Hawks fans like get mad about how low the number is. I would go over it. I think it's not a crazy number when you realize that this team was worse than that last year. It happened a year ago, and yeah, they got Murray, but it wasn't like you just added Murray to the team you already had.
Right.
You did lose other guys. Like, I think the roster is better, but it isn't quite the same, like, plug and play. And the Bogey thing, I know I'm like a broken record on it. They need Bogey.
Yeah.
Like, they just do. I know it sounds crazy to say they need like offensive help on this team that has Trey and DeJounte, but he's their only shooter other than Trey who's like an actual like plus shooter. I know AJ Griffin is going to be that eventually. He's already probably a great shooter now, but he's a rookie. He's 19.
He's just not going to play a ton.
Yeah. So
we know this.
We know Bogey's not probably going to be the guy he was 2 years ago with the knee, but him just being out there is a huge factor. And also, like, I like Jalen Johnson, but he's not proven, and that's a guy who's in a rotation now as well. So I don't know. I like him, obviously.
No, listen. I'll lean over. I think the number's closer. I think this is a 40.
Well, there's
mid 40s to high 40s. And the other thing is, like, look, I mean, like, we picked a bunch of teams to win 50 games. Like,
well, and there's also a reason why the number's 46. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like with some exceptions, people that I trust that cover the league beyond Atlanta all kind of have the Hawks in a similar range. It's like, okay, maybe they have them 6th or 7th, maybe they have them 5th, maybe they have them 8th, whatever it is, but they're all kind of in that mid to high 40s range, and that's where the number is. And that's like, you might say the Hawks could win 50 games, and they could. The Hawks could blow by that. They absolutely, but like, somebody's got to not do that. So,
well, and what I'll also say is, like, the Hawks haven't, even when they went to the conference finals, like, they weren't a dominant regular season team. Like, they've never shown it. Like, and so there's reason to have a little skepticism that all of a sudden they're just going to piece it together and win all these games. Like, they're still a team that's like learning how to win games that, again, it's win the games you're supposed to win. Like, you should, in this division, you should be beating Charlotte and beating Orlando a bunch. But, like, you can't have these games where you go, you know, Charlotte comes in and beats you because you sleepwalk through it. Like, you can't have those games that they have had. And I think that's one of the things that scares you off of putting in the upper echelon of the East is the shooting. And, like, can they avoid those nights? And, like, Hawks fans know they exist. Like, I get being optimistic. I think you should. I like a lot of what the team has. Again, what happens with Bogey? And, like, can you just avoid those nights where nobody other than Trey has it going? Because they're just, and that's a concern with the shooting. Like, that's one of my concerns. So, like, if they can take care of business in division, especially, then, like, yeah, they can go over. Take care, like, you get 2 bad teams for 8 games this year.
Yeah,
win them. Well, like, you need 6 minimum from those.
I'm glad you said this earlier. like the whole like they haven't done the regular season thing is very true because 2 years ago they made the conference finals. We all know this. That team prorated to 82 games, won about 46 and a half games, which is exactly the number of this team on the over-under. So, like, this has not been a team that has a history in this era of winning 50 games or winning 49 games.
Since
they have not won 48 games for more than a half decade, even. So, I think
that's and like again, like maybe they will, and like
and listen, this is not you said it too, but part of the reason why the Cavs and the Raptors and the Hawks in particular, and now the Heat even are all in the 40s, is because there's really no way of the math working where the top 7 teams in the East all win 50 games or all win 49 games. Somebody's not going to win that many games.
In however many, like it happened like once in the West, like 7 teams
it
won
can
50
be
games.
it can be done, but it's not a likely scenario. Like it really feels like the odds of that happening are not high. And like I like the Hawks more than a couple of those teams, but I also understand why they wouldn't be ahead of a couple of those teams too.
Yep.
So that's the long and short of it. Obviously, we'll have more Hawks coverage on this podcast, but 46 is the number. I think it's a reasonable one. I would go over. You lean over. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I lean over.
If you had to choose a side.
47 wins, like absolutely in play.
47 wins would not like excite anybody, but it would also probably get you out of the play-in. You would think maybe 6 seed.
But 5-6.
You could be in the play-in with 47 wins.
Yeah, that's tough, man. The East is tough.
That is the East this year. Is that you could be in the play-in with 47 wins. So, it was funny. I mentioned this on the previous podcast, but there was this like I'm not sure you saw it because you're not covering the team like I am these days. But there was this controversy. I use that in quotes about this this Polaroid image that was shared, where like a bunch of guys on the team that were asked to kind of give their goals.
Oh yeah, Clint.
And Clint said whatever he said.
Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, and
everybody else like win the finals.
The day that happened was the open practice day, and I was there. And Big Tigger was interviewing Nate McMillan on the mic, and he asked Nate what his goal was, and Nate said, "Our goal is to avoid the play-in." So I thought it was the greatest thing that's ever happened because everybody was mad at Clint for not saying championship, and the head coach said, "I'd like to be the 6th seed, please. Thank you." He didn't say that exactly.
Please and thank you.
He literally said, "Avoid the play-in" with his goal, which I think is like a very reasonable goal.
But here's the thing: for a regular season goal, that's the goal.
That is the goal.
Look. Get yourself to and like this is like we talk about win totals, like it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like I think again because of what we talked about with like the defense and the 3 levels of defense, like I think there's a chance like in the playoffs, this is not a team that you're going to want to face. Like I think they addressed some of the issues that plagued them last year in that Miami series. In having to because again, like they needed that other ball handler to win a team throws traps at Trey every single time down the floor, right? Like they needed that. They addressed that. The shooting is going to be a question, but we've also seen that shooting in the playoffs isn't necessarily like things get tighter. Great shooting teams aren't always the thing you want to lean on. Like I kind of like that they have that playability. I like it more as a playoff team now than I did before, but as a regular season team, like we know what the formula is. And some of that formula is just being able to shoot it because there's, like that's just part of the regular season formula. The playoff formula is different. I think this Hawks team is better built. This is me trying to save myself here.
No, you're right. For the playoffs. No,
this is a team better built for the playoffs than necessarily the regular season because I like that. I like the tight rotation they can run. Like we talked about the guys, as long as Bogey's around.
They have an 8 that everybody likes. I mean, if you have the 8, you use Justin Holiday as the 8th and maybe Jalen's the 9th, but no matter what, there's 7 guys that everybody likes, and I think Holiday as the 8th is a guy that I like. So
if Bogey's right, but again, like you don't want to be Toronto playing an 8-man rotation in the regular season, right? Like you don't want to do that, and they're not going to.
No.
So that again, that's where regular season win total versus I probably take Toronto because I know how they're going to play, and I know they're going to play that short rotation. It has nothing to do with how I would pick them in a series.
No,
okay. In the series, I would probably take the Hawks.
Exactly. And this thing about this Hawks team is that we saw them make the conference finals while not having a great regular season 2 years ago. No. And this team this year is, I think, built better for the playoffs, not only with what you said about the top 8, but they now have more than one shot creator.
Yep.
That helps. And they're better defensively this year than they've been on paper. So 100%. Yeah, I think that long term, obviously everybody wants to aim for playoff success. I do think that, they're more likely to do that, and it's all about matchups, and we can get into
Sure,
that
of
when we get into
course.
that. But
Depends. And regular season wins matter for that.
but
However,
they
I
want
will
to they want
say
to avoid the play-in, and that's the thing. Last year we were tracking it all season long, and it was like, all right, the goal is to avoid the play-in. They had to get to the play-in. They got out of it. They made the playoffs, but I'm sure the higher end goal is to be a top 4 seed, maybe get home court in the first round. But winning a bunch of games is what they want to do. And if they don't start slowly again, that'd be helpful. They've been
that would be nice.
2 years in a row. They've started not terribly, but not good.
Well, and again, so you like, where's Bogey? Like, when does he come back?
That's a big
going
part
to
of
play a role. Again, like, I don't want to sit here and say like I'm doom and gloom on the Hawks. I just think for the regular season,
Robbie, you leaned over. I think you were.
But yeah, but like I just
no, I'm with you. The people that there are Hawks fans that are like all in, and I totally get it. About like wins and win totals and stuff like that for this year, and top 2 seeds or top 3 seeds, whatever it is. But like, I think that a reasonable approach, I take a step back, is like, if Nate thought his team was going to be in the mix for the number 1 seed, I don't think he would say
we're avoiding the play-in.
We want to avoid the play-in. Maybe he would because it's Nate, but like, I think they know it might take a little bit of time. They've all said it. Even Trey's never going to really say it, but even he's kind of pointed to it a couple times. Like Nate said, like, look, it's going to maybe take a little bit of time. And Landry said it. Travis I'm sure, said it somewhere behind the scenes. He doesn't want to talk to the media anymore.
He doesn't talk. He promoted Landry, so he doesn't have to talk anymore.
I'm sure that was part of it. But no, it's really interesting to me. Like, they know it's not a new team. But when you do what you did and you push a lot of chips in for a guy like Murray, knowing that it's not like a plug and play fit, like they know better than to like get over their skis in year 1 and be like, all right, we're gonna win 60 games this year. Like,
well, and look, and I've talked about this. Like, a lot of this comes down to Trey and him buying in. And I think the thing that helps is obviously he was in on this. Like, he wanted DeJounte. They're friends. They're same. They both have the same agent. All of that. Like, a lot of this comes down to Trey being willing to seed that. And I think we saw that in that first, game, as he clearly was like, DeJounte, you do the thing. We need to showcase you. And that's a big step, because I mean, that has been one of the questions of Trey is like, will he cede some of that responsibility? Like, you can talk about it all you want, but it's like, will you cede some of that? It's great to talk about how you want second. Look, LeBron has done this his entire career. We have heard every training camp for a decade that LeBron's about to take a lesser offensive role. And by week 4 of the regular season, he remembers that he's the best offensive player in the league with the ball in his hands. Trey is in that realm. He is one of the 5 best guys in the league. However, when teams are trapping you in the playoffs, when teams are doing this, that's when we're going to see that kind of, I think, help out more than necessarily in the regular season, where, Trey can still do what Trey does. And maybe DeJounte gets lost a little bit at times. And because it's easier to go with what you're comfortable with. And for Trey, it's going to take some time to do that. But, again, like, come playoff time, I think this team has gotten better. In the regular season, I think there's some questions as to whether they joined that upper echelon of teams that we can trust to win 50 games. That's all there is.
I'm in. And we even saw it in, again, not to make too much of the first preseason game, but we even saw that then. Like, in the first quarter, they were pretty intentional about like having Trey off the ball a lot, having DeJounte bring the ball up the floor. And by the third quarter, Trey was doing a lot of Trey stuff. Sure. And that's how it should be. Like, I've said this,
he's the better player. He's the better player.
He's a better player. He's a better shot creator, and his best skills are on the ball. So like, you don't want to take him off the ball. Like, there's this like whole. This is a rabbit hole. We won't go down. But like, there's this conversation on Hawks Twitter I've seen about how Trey's a shooting guard, and I'm like, guys, like, no. What are we doing? What are we doing here?
Stop.
They're both point guards.
8-5-5. Come on now.
They're both point guards. Number one. Number two, if you're picking one of those guys to be a shooting guard, it's going to be the guy who's 4 inches taller and can defend shooting guards. Anyway, it's just it's a very funny thing. Right. But
and that's the thing is I'm interested to see how they figure that balance, because again, if you take Trey off the ball, you're getting rid of one of the most elite skill sets in the league, which is his playmaking.
But you also want to have him be the guy who can shoot it.
Right. Exactly. But if you take DeJounte off the ball, you are taking a shooter off of the floor. So
Balance.
it's going to be balance. It's going to be a thing that they have to figure out. There's probably going to be some rough patches, but there's probably going to be patches where everybody thinks they are going to win the championship. And that's the magic of an 82-game regular season, friends.
Well, they also open with the Houston Rockets at home. And, so go ahead and fly the banner. Go ahead and fly the banner that night when the Hawks win by 17. Okay, well, Robbie, we've talked for an hour and something on this podcast across 2 parts, and I appreciate your ministry in this regard on this Monday. Thank you. We've already signed you off in part 1, but we'll do it again here in part 2. Please plug all that you have going on this season. I believe the NBA season opener is a week from tomorrow on the Tuesday.
It sure is.
So we're basically a week away for your life.
Ring night, Draymond TBD.
Will Draymond appear at ring night is going to be the lead story for the next 7 days.
Incredible. I hope he just shows up on the TNT set. TNT employee.
Is he under contract?
Turner employee Draymond Green.
That would be incredible. That would be incredible. I hadn't thought about that. What he's suspended and he just shows up in a suit.
Fingers crossed, brother.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, yeah, you can read myself and Brad over at UPROXX Sports Dime Magazine. If you are a college football fan, the Puntcast is rolling along. Picks and idiocy every week. And yeah, my Twitter handle's right there. Kalland, if you must. I don't know.
Follow Robby for all punt takes and whatever else he's talking about. Oceans 11, 12, and 13.
A lot of Oceans tweets.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Robby, for being here. As for everybody else, please subscribe to this podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Locked on Hawks. Follow me on Twitter if you'd like to at BT Rowland. We'll see you all next time.